Hey everybody, this is your daily dose of all things royal. Welcome back, my gorgeous good-looking friends. Oh boy, I really hope that Scobie gets sued by the palace. Already this book is kicking off with lies. So People magazine releases this exclusive of Omid Scobie's Endgame. Now we all know that Meghan and Harry helped with this book as they did with Finding Freedom, and it will be no surprise that the book will be filled with lies once again. In the small sample that People magazine has given, there's a clear focus and target on William in making him look like the biggest asshole. You know, these two are truly pathetic. And if they think that this is a good idea and that the public is going to believe the garbage that's going to come out of this book, then they're really dealing with some stupid people, which summarizes the ignorant degenerates that they have as fans. Let's rip this apart right now. So People magazine goes on to write, in this passage from Endgame, out November 28th, and exclusively excerpted in this week's People, authored Omid Scobie offers an intimate look at Harry's journey to the Queen's deathbed last year. And it begins, in September 2022, Harry, 39, and wife Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, 42. Notice in this article, they don't even call him Prince Harry, but Meghan's got to have her title there. Visited the UK for a series of engagements. While there, the palace announced that Queen Elizabeth, 96, had been advised by her doctors to rest. By the next morning, the Sussexes had no idea that Buckingham Palace was already planning for the Queen's final hours and the first days of the monarchy's new era, until the Duke's phone started ringing, an unknown number. He usually ignored those. You should answer it, Meghan told him. He tapped accept just before it stopped. Harry hadn't spoken to his father much that year, but this was not the time for any father and son tension. Charles told him he and Camilla were about to leave for Dumfries House for Balmoral, where Princess Anne was already by the Queen's side. He told Harry to make his way to Scotland immediately. William, whom Charles had just spoken to, was supposedly working on arranging travel. Harry sent a text message to his brother asking how he and Kate planned to get to Scotland and whether they could travel together. No response. With no further information from other family members or palace aides, the Sussexes and their team had to operate in the dark. Harry was informed that William had already secured a flight with his uncles Andrew and Edward's wife Sophie, but he couldn't get in touch with anyone about joining that flight. It was upsetting to witness, said a source close to the Sussexes. Harry was completely by himself on this. Oh, boo-hoo! Boo-hoo-hoo-hoo! With the world's media now rushing to Aberdeen and most flights and train tickets selling out within minutes, travel options dwindled. Another call came through from Charles, who instructed his younger son to come alone. Despite already publicly confirming that Meghan would come with him, always the plan if they were traveling from California for this very situation, he reluctantly agreed after Charles assured him that Kate would not be there either. Charles had cited protocol, but the reality was that Kate chose to stay back to pick up the children from their first day at a new school. They just didn't want Meghan there, said a former palace aide. Meghan, a friend added, could sense she wasn't wanted. Oh, you think? Let's stop right there. So who do you think the former palace aide was? I'm thinking it's James Holt. Well, according to Coming from the Horse's Mouth, Spare, Harry writes that he said I was welcome at Balmoral, but he didn't want her. He started to lay out his reason, which was nonsensical and disrespectful, and I wasn't having it. Don't ever speak about my wife that way, he stammered, apologetic, saying he simply didn't want a lot of people around. No other wives were coming. Kate wasn't coming, he said. Therefore, Meg shouldn't. Then that's all you needed to say. Now, we all know that we can't trust what Harry has to say, so where do we go to find a good, solid source of truth? Well, that would be Tom Bower's Revenge. In the final chapter that he wrote after he published his book, he details what really went down. And here's what it said. During the morning of 8th of September, a phone call to Harry revealed that the Queen was dying. A private jet, Harry was told, was ready for him to fly with his brother William to Aberdeen to see his grandmother before she died. The news caused turmoil at Frogmore. At Meghan's suggestion, Harry insisted that he would be accompanied by his wife, and that plan was broadcast to journalists at 1:53 p.m. Meghan's expectation was astonishing. For 4 years, she had rejected the Queen's invitations to visit Balmoral, but in her last hours of life, Meghan eagerly sought to make the journey. Firmly, Harry was told that Meghan was not welcome. Unwilling to waste more time, William ordered the RAF jet to take off at 2:39 p.m. Harry was left to hire his own plane and make the journey alone. He landed in Scotland at 6:46 p.m., 14 minutes after the Queen's death had been announced to the public. She had died at 3:10 p.m. I don't know about you, but this is pretty detailed, and Tom Bower has way more credibility than Scabies. Also, it does sound like William was waiting for Harry to come join them on the plane. He wasn't excluded from it. So I believe that this retelling of the narrative is to shake off how much of a bitch Meghan was. It's the reason why he couldn't get on the plane with his family to go see his grandmother before she passed away. And the fact that she delayed the plane and caused William to miss out on saying his goodbye while she was alive, of course she looks like a complete asshole. The rest of the excerpt says, Harry sent another text to his brother. Nothing. Though there were available seats on William's chartered Dassault Falcon private jet, which was leaving in less than an hour, Harry was left to fend for himself. Woe is me, Harry. William ignored him, said a family source, aka Meghan. He clearly didn't want to see his brother. Princess Eugenie reached out to Harry to see if he had any more information about their grandmother. She had heard from another family member that it was time, but knew little more. With no invite forthcoming from any of the family members, Harry eventually located an available option, a private charter costing $37,000 from Luton Airport, a 40-minute drive from Frogmore without traffic. Why is Mr. Plastic Not So Fantastic and Meghan so obsessed with flaunting their wealth? Like, it's so tacky and so gauche. Like, who does that aside from people who don't have money, and that when they do have money, they have to make it known how much everything costs? Like, it's the tackiest and most cringeworthy thing. Like, nobody gives a shit that it costs Harry $37,000. Like, whoa, you're so awesome that you can play for a $37,000 flight. Like, nobody cares. Anyhow, I digress. And with that, Harry started his own race to Scotland. Though rumors of the Queen's passing were rife at this point, Harry had no way of knowing whether it was true. His father doesn't carry a cell phone, and his brother wasn't acknowledging his existence. When William and the others landed at 3:50 p.m. to discover the news that the Queen had passed away at 3:10, Harry still had no idea what was going on when his own plane finally took off at 5:35 p.m. And as his phone service cut out after takeoff, he remained in the dark for the duration of his 70-minute flight. Back on the ground, there was a tug-of-war between the Sussex's team and Buckingham Palace over whether to announce the news without Harry being informed. With Her Majesty's death already confirmed to the Prime Minister an hour before Harry left, and all other senior family members now gathered in Scotland processing the news, royal press secretaries were ready to share the news with the world. The palace claimed Charles tried to call Harry. Sources later told me there was never any proof of this, and that there was no more time left to delay. His team literally had to beg for them to wait for his plane to land, and they reluctantly agreed to hold the statement back for a little bit, confirmed a close family source. But as stormy weather over Aberdeen International forced Harry's plane to circle the airport numerous times before landing, patience at Buckingham Palace press office wore thin. They could wait no longer, and the announcement went live at 6:30 p.m. When Harry's plane finally touched tarmac 20 minutes later, he received a text from Meghan urging him to call ASAP, followed by a breaking news alert via the BBC News app with the announcement of the Queen's death. Palace sources later briefed certain papers that Charles had personally shared the news with his younger son, but this was just a move to save face. Harry was crushed, said a friend of the Duke. His relationship with the Queen was everything to him. Oh, really? Could have fooled me. She would have wanted him to know before it went out to the world. They could have waited just a little longer. It would have been nothing in the grand scheme of things, but no one respected that at all. Oh, yeah, like you respected your grandmother when you went on TV, trashed the family when her husband was in the hospital dying. You respected her when you went ahead and wrote this book and filmed this Netflix series. You respected her when you attacked the family and called them racist. I mean, I'm sorry, but nobody really cares, Harry. The last paragraph says, when he arrived at Balmoral, Princess Anne warmly greeted him and led him to the Queen's room, where he spent a quiet moment privately paying his respects. He had hoped to see his father, who had made it to Balmoral Castle in time to see his mother alive, to express his sympathies, but he was informed that Charles, William, and Camilla had already left for Birk Hall together. Again, no invite was extended to Harry. Boo-hoo! That night, after eating, he retired to his room, exhausted by the day's emotional roller coaster. He was glad to have had a private moment to say goodbye to his grandmother, but there was no point in sticking around. With no offer to return with William and the others in the morning, all of his texts, including a thoughtful message about the loss of their grandmother, continued to be ignored. Harry booked his own British Airways ticket on the first available departing flight. Nope, that's not how it all went down. According to Tom Bauer, he writes, Harry's festering anger towards William and Charles overhung the grief in Balmoral Castle. That night, Harry refused to eat dinner with his father and William. He left before breakfast to catch a commercial flight back to London. His father's recorded TV address to the country the following day ended with an expression of love for his son, and Meghan, who continued to build their lives overseas, was ignored by his son. Harry, you are a petulant man-child that went in there and made it all about yourself. So now you're trying to use Scobie's book to twist this to make it look like you are the victim? I'm sorry, I'm not buying it, especially after all that has been done. And I'm struggling to understand what Meghan and Harry are not getting. Like, do they not understand that people don't like them? And no matter what they try and do to tarnish the royal family's reputation, it's only going to make them look worse. As is, there's so many inconsistencies with their stories. Nothing can be believed. And this garbage that's being written by Scobie really is just a money grab and a way for Meghan to go ahead and air her grievances once again. Does she not understand that people understand what is happening and what they are doing? Like, this just makes her look so much more pathetic. You know, if she can't sink any lower, she manages to do so. And quite frankly, I think that she's going to continue to keep sinking lower until she meets the depths of hell. And Satan's going to say, look, girl, I'm not ready to give up my job yet. You need to chill out for a little bit. And I'm not saying that Harry is innocent either in all of this. He's definitely a part of it, but it's Meghan's forked tongue that's in his ears forcing him to do these things. And it's just making both of them look worse. I just remembered something. I want to go back to this part for a second, where Scobie writes, Charles had cited protocol, but the reality was that Kate chose to stay back to pick up the children from their first day at a new school. They just didn't want Meghan there. Well, you're right. They didn't want her there, and they told her they didn't want her there. But the first sentence about this protocol, no, the reality was not that Kate chose to stay back. The reality was Catherine took one for the team. According to Robert Jobson, who is the author of Our King, who is a longtime royal reporter close to the family, said that Kate was denied a final goodbye with the Queen because she had to stay away from Balmoral to ensure that Meghan didn't show up. Can you believe that this decision was an extra layer to ensure that Prince Harry didn't have any excuse to bring his bitch wife with him? Could you blame Catherine for having resentment? I think all of England resents Meghan for what she has done. So how can she think that, oh, she felt that maybe the family didn't want her around? You're damn right. All of England didn't want her around. All of England wanted her to just go home. Nobody wanted her at the funeral. In fact, she didn't deserve or was worthy to be at that funeral, which I think infuriated so many people because of what she did to the family. You know, just as Meghan likes to rewrite history, I sure hope that the royal family does take steps in the future to erase her from the history books in the sense of wiping any kind of footage of this vile human being hovering over this family during that sensitive time. It still infuriates me to this day that she was allowed to attend this funeral. It's astounding to me that Meghan and Harry feel that the family still owes them some kind of apology. I mean, for what? After all that they have done, all the lies that they have told, all the malicious things that they did behind the scenes against the family not once retaliated back on them. So this book is coming out in like less than 2 weeks, and already in this small sample, we have seen an effort here to smear Prince William's name as well as the family. Once again, this is another attempt to go ahead and attack the family. Now, they can say all they want that they had nothing to do with it, but who's going to believe them? They lied the first time when Finding Freedom was written, and now this, and you can hear Meghan's voice in the back of your head as you're reading this. All of this is a complete smear campaign against the family, all because Meghan is too petty, too jealous, and bitter that she can't just let it go. And the same goes for Prince Harry. His jealousy has been exacerbated as a result of having this toxic cancer in his life. And as much as I don't want to talk about this book when it comes out, I feel like I have to, because we all know that the propaganda is going to come fast and furious, and it's going to saturate the media. They are so desperate to have their false narrative stick, and I'm sorry, that's not happening. So we're just going to have to ride this wave. But anyhow, what do you guys think? Of course, I think that this is nothing but garbage, but it's important to understand where the garbage stinks and point out the lies, in my opinion. But leave your thoughts below, and as always, I will be back with more content. But until then, please be safe, and I'll talk to you later. Bye!
It was such a fraud.